Our brigade, under General Winder, were posted in reserve on the right of the infantry line, near the old Rosie's headquarters at Widow Glen House. As the morning broke on September 20, our pickets came back and told us that several hundred yards in front, near the Vineyard Farm, they heard commands being given through the darkness. The Rebs were getting into position to attack, massing between the Vineyard Farm and the Brotherton cabin to the north. Infantry near our bivouac was called into formation. These men of Sheridan's, Davis, and Wood's division all got moving. In those thick woods, it was hard to see more than a regiment or a brigade at a time, unless they crossed the immediate yards or field around the cabins.
Dispatch riders moved back and forth behind the lines, and our command, under Forrest, barely had time to munch on our corn pone and bacon before we were poking at the Yankees. And sure enough, we're still there. As the middle of morning brought the sun to our heads, the chance to see all those men of Polk Swing ready to again enter the fight was a sight to see. But riding down the line a ways, one could see General Longstreet and his staff. General Bragg gave Longstreet some of our Western men, and his were not all off the trains yet. His men were always in the newspapers for victory in Virginia, and our men were curious how well they would stand up to it here. The fighting rolled into a steady tearing sound of musketry until midday.
Let's get him!
By 11 a.m., our infantry was pressed to their front, the Rebs attacking across the Lafayette Road. Old Rosie rode the line and cheered his men, promising them eternal fame if they beat back the best of Bragg and Lee. The men cheered and munched on their hardtacks as they shuffled into columns. By noon, the Rebs attacked in force just above the cabin at the Brotherton farm. But in routine form, we had a solid defense and threw them back with a withering fire. As the next hours rolled by, the cracking of muskets intensified, which meant the Rebs were increasing the numbers. The rebels' strange hog call or yell would be heard, then volleys, and then the deep guttural hurrah of our men. That is how we knew the ebb and flow of battle. Who cheered last held the ground.
Fire! Loaded to ready!
While Reynolds' division held the right, the men of Brannan's division, which fought like tigers the day before, held more than their share on the second day. The men of Wood's division to their right were soon ordered to move, as it was believed they were needed down the line to the left.
That's it, fellas. That's it. That's it.
Our men on both wings attacked and were pushing some of the Yankees, but they would not break. Polk's men pressed and pinned the Yankees' right, allowing Longstreet's men to hammer away at their end. The Yankees were fighting as they always do, just good enough. The men of Hindman, Bushrod Johnson, Hood, and Kershaw all pushed and pushed. General Longstreet seemed to be mad with a bear's fury with the failure of his men to drive the Yankees from their lines. As they say, he saw a whole Yankee division removing themselves from the line. He immediately sent in his hammers to pound the gap.
For some reason, the generals believed there was a gap to the right where there was not. General Wood knew there was not, but followed orders. At the time, his men were only very lightly engaged, so they could move, but within what seemed minutes, General Longstreet's rebels plunged into the several hundred yards wide gap before it could be filled by other reserves. It was a monumental blunder and not well remedied.